women and indigenous people and minorities were there for like all of the history as well. So I mean, it would be nice to just teach the history and give information on all of that and what they did in the units as well, instead of just maybe going over that again at the end. Doesn't really make much sense. So I think they should add it into the curriculum and not make it a unit at the end.
Esteban? Drew?
So I completely agree with everyone else because a topic like women, which is like very very important to history, just being a little part of the end of the course just makes no sense because generally speaking, when something is at towards the end of the course, people tend to forget it quickly. So if it was to be taught throughout the whole course for them to actually understand like the importance and what it actually means, what happened. So, and if it's like really small, they not you can't cover like everything. There's a lot about women history. So if it's just a small part at the end of the history course, they kind of get like they won't the full story. They kind of get like bits and pieces of it. So
Managi?
I completely agree with everyone before me, and think including like minorities and like women into the curriculum throughout the course instead of like just having a little piece of it at the end is like so important because it creates like it's not when you put it like when you incorporate them into the like subjects, it's more like I guess natural. Like you can, it's so like you can. I don't have the words to say this, but like um, you can. It's just like normal, you know. Like anyone can remember, and like everyone, like women were like how we incorporate men and like white people into the subjects and just say like how they contributed to like certain eras in like history. We can do the same thing with minorities, and it's just going to be like I guess like less performative, and it's like more it's like more normal knowing and just normalizing talking about minorities and stuff.
Garth?
Look, I agree with what everyone else said that like the unit like it shouldn't be taught at the end because like mainly when you talk about like something big at the end, kids will think that it doesn't matter and they won't really care about it because when it's done at the end, they think that teachers just gave it because like the course is almost over and they didn't have anything else to give. So like I think it should be taught like in the middle of like it should be put in the curriculum because if you just teach it at the end, kids won't really pay attention. They won't really care that much about it or try on the topic because they'll just think that teachers had to give something out last minute because it's the end of the course.
Okay, I still have lots of history that I could teach. I just kind of wanted to add that in there. To Gavin.
I think one thing, if we're gonna continue to put minorities in history discussions, which we should, by the way, because I mean it's really good to learn more and more about that side of history. If we implement it in just one big unit at one certain part throughout the course, it's gonna feel like a lot of it's like, oh, you're forcing us to learn this instead of like learning it over a period of time where it feels like, wow, I'm actually able to learn all this material. That's actually really influential and important in history.
And Fatma?
Well, I just wanted to add that I think learning about them like throughout the course would be better because it's like really how we see the world and it's not just one topic. So if we're learning about history, just and leaving them at the end for like just as one unit, well, it wouldn't really make sense because they were here and part of many events throughout history. So to create just one unit for them at the end would make it seem like more unimportant, I'd say.
And next on the list is Cece, because I believe, Stevan, you have you had a legacy hand there. So Cece.
So I just wanted to add on. I'm not sure if you meant like by the end of the course, as in like at the very end of like grade 12 course or something like that. But I did also read about like some of the ways that history is taught, and for some provinces, minorities are not really taught in the earlier grades, or like they aren't really in the mandatory courses, and they're only taught in like higher grades, grade 11 or 12. And I think that's not really a good way to do it because like a lot of people they might not take those optional courses, or they might not continue studying history into high school, and it's just they won't have that like additional bit of knowledge about minorities, and they'll still have a very like Eurocentric like view on history.
So I would like to actually segue sort of into that article, taking a look at what we're actually taught about Indigenous people and when. But we have one more comment before we get there. So Rochelle.
I completely agree with what everyone else said. Women's history should be taught throughout the whole course, since women have done many significant things too, but aren't really appreciated for it. And teaching it at the end, it just makes students think it's worthless and a last-minute topic that the teacher just assigned, and it seems unimportant.
So let's take a look at, so that's how we used to do it in the 1970s, right? That it was kind of like, tacked on to the end when I went to, or when your teachers went through school. And now when we're taking a look at what is sort of mandated across the country. So I just wanted to give you some background information that each province actually sets up their curriculum different. And so that's why in looking at the school, there's so many differences across the province. And let's take a look at what Ontario does, right, with Indigenous history. So what did you guys think of that article and what the big message was in and around how we handle Indigenous history in our history courses? Go ahead, Cece.
So like I said before, a lot of different provinces like teach about certain things at different times, and for some Indigenous, like history, I believe, is actually kind of like a mandatory thing in the course, which I think it's good, but like it's also kind of it's not the same in every province, right? Because some provinces don't have it as a mandatory course, or they just only cover it briefly, and then like in the later years of high school or like in optional courses they cover it more in depth, which I think shouldn't be the case, because Indigenous history is like a really important part of Canadian history because they were here first, and we like the settlers did a lot of like bad mistreated them really badly just for their land, and I think it's really important that people know about this because again it's such a large part of their history, and even if like they briefly cover it, I feel like it's not enough because like I think it's really important to understand like the context of just how much that was did to them, and also like their conditions right now. A lot of them live on reserves, but they don't even have like clean water. It's just really like something that's important to know.
Alexia?
I've always wondered, and I think I talked with Miss Major about this like quite briefly, how it's very interesting how there are some people who know and learned a lot about Indigenous history in their classes. However, there's some people who only heard about residential schools and that was it. And it's honestly quite baffling because this is just another example that it's how eye-opening it is that like so much and can be like taught and so little can be taught at the same time. Like I believe that everybody should learn about it in like this like a larger amount, because it doesn't make sense for me to have to explain to adults how indigenous people live on reserves with no clean water, because there's adults out there who still believe, like I've tried to like debate with them and talk with them, and they still won't get it because they say that I like and where I'm getting my information from, because they grew up at a time where they didn't learn anything about indigenous people. Like this is just another example of how like the school system has yet again failed indigenous history. Like I just this gets me heated, so sorry if I like don't talk for a second, but it just feels so annoying and insensitive, because like the least that the government could do is have it mandatory to have a large extent of indigenous history be learned to every child, because it makes no sense that there's children out there who only know one little tiny thing about indigenous people, and then there's others that know a lot. It just feels like there's an imbalance and it needs to be like fixed, because if it's not fixed, stigmas will still lead on, the whole story will not be told, and we can't live in a country where people don't know about what happened to indigenous people.
Managi?
I completely agree with Cece and Alexia, because I think that all, like, when we look at the article, a lot of the provinces have different, I guess, curriculums for Indigenous history. So, like, in Manitoba, students, like, begin to focus on residential schools between grade 9 and 11, whereas in, like, in British Columbia, they begin to learn it in like grade 5 and like continue it on in grade 10 and 12. And there's also other provinces where like it's mandatory in grade 5 and 10. So I think having like a mandatory course about Indigenous history is actually really good, because it helps broaden like students' perspectives. And also, like, I remember when we first started the course, you asked like how many people learned about Indigenous history or residential schools, and it wasn't that much people, or like a lot of people knew about it, but there were still some exceptions. So I think it's important to have everyone on the same page when they enter high school and go beyond. So yeah.
Great. And next we have Kira.
So I agree with what everyone else said. And when I read the article, I thought it was really shocking to see how a lot of provinces introduce information about Indigenous history in like the later years, but it's not usually prioritized in earlier years, like in social studies. I think one article brought that up, how social studies doesn't only focus on history, but also like geography and civics and maybe even health. But I thought I think it's important to integrate Indigenous history through the entire like education, right? Not just like grade 12 or grade 11. I think it's important to understand how Indigenous people were mistreated even when you're in like grade 4 or something, because we play the land acknowledgement every day, but some people might not even understand like what the land acknowledgement means. People in elementary school might be confused, and learning about different perspectives at a younger age will help people connect with Indigenous people more easily. And when you introduce something after someone's used to a certain perspective, or they've only been exposed to Eurocentric views, it's harder for people to adapt to new perspectives and acknowledge that they were wrong. Like the women's article talked about students before and after they learned in a program, but some students may not be open to admitting that they were wrong in the first place. People vary on how stubborn they are, and when they grow up in like family atmospheres, they might be exposed to certain biases, and it's really hard to acknowledge when your bias is wrong in certain situations. So, yeah.
Gru?
I completely agree with everyone else. And when I was reading the article, I was kind of shocked to see like the only thing they talked about for the indigenous people is just residential schools. Like that's it. Like nothing else. There is so much to learn about indigenous history, and they just talk about residential schools. And I feel like it has to be mandatory because, I mean, if you make it optional, people generally don't want to learn about it. They just brush it off like, yeah, indigenous history. No, I'm not gonna do that. But I've heard people say that a lot. So I feel like it has to be mandatory for people to understand the impact, like what they've been through because of us, obviously. I think it's stupid that they don't like make it mandatory.
Right. Siobhan? Thank you. I'm so tempted to jump in now and ask a question, but I'm going to not interrupt. Okay, it's hard sometimes as a teacher. Garth?
I agree with like what everyone said. Because like when I was reading the article, it was like surprising to like see how some like provinces have very outdated like stuff to teach kids with, and like how some provinces barely teach kids about like indigenous history. And I think that they should at least update the curriculum and start teaching them more often, maybe from like kindergarten, like teach them a little bit in kindergarten and then dive more deep in as you like get older in each grade, and like continue in high school, because like some like I read some like provinces teach it once in grade 5 and then they dig deeper in grade 10, but then most kids won't even remember then from like what they learned in grade 5 or like anything like that. And then how like I think someone else also said in the chat that the teachers who do good are the ones that like don't like work with the curriculum, they like do it their own way. And like it shouldn't be like that. It should be that like if the teachers follow the curriculum, they are doing it the right way, and like the kids are still learning. So like that should be kind of like a wake up call for like the board to realize that they need to change something and learn about history more often.
Fatma?
Well, I just think that it's inconsiderate for some of the schools to start learning about residential schools so late. I don't think it gives the students enough time to really understand the lives and the past of Indigenous people, and just learning about the schools won't really do the least bit of justice to them. And if there would be like a compulsory course for residential schools in like in elementary at least, I think that the students could develop a deeper and like more accurate understanding on the topic from a younger age, which could impact their views on how they view the world very significantly. And I also don't think that we fully acknowledge their history today also. So I just think that's horrible all in all.
Gavin?
I was shocked like the rest of you to like see that people were learning about, you know, residential schools up as early as kindergarten, when I mean schools first started teaching it for me, I think around grade 7. I think one important thing about like hiding, you know, residential schools and other, you know, atrocities that occur to Indigenous peoples is if we continue to hide it until later in units, it's going to really be like a big rush and people are going to like rethink all the history they learned and stuff. So, I mean, if we can implement it earlier in courses, I think it makes it more, I wouldn't say comfortable, but it makes you understand it more. You have a full understanding of what's going on, and you can, like, look back and, like, still somehow find different positives throughout history. I mean, if you're, like, rushing all this in now, you kind of have a full negative view, potentially.
Cece?
I wanted to add on to what Kara said about teaching Indigenous history from a younger grade, not only from like a purely educational perspective, but I think a lot of kids, when they're growing up, they kind of tend to adopt the views of those around them, from family and peers. If they have a very like racist parents or something like that, they're also going to think that, oh, this is the way that the world works. And I think it's really important to have like Indigenous history from like have them learn it at a younger grade, because now it would be the time to like get them to unlearn those views so that they don't like kind of have like preconceived notions or stereotypes and things like that. And I'm not really sure why children aren't learning about Indigenous history like earlier on, but like if one of the like if someone's like reasoning is that like it's a heavy topic, I think they have to realize that Indigenous children of that same age had to go through residential schools and a lot of other things, and they were like abused and killed. And like kind of the least we can do is just learn about it.
Michelle?
I feel like Indigenous history should be taught every year because honestly, I've talked to so many people who don't even know a single bit about what's happening to them. And like, it's still a problem today. It's not like it just happened in the past. So like, we should treat it as a real issue.
Brenna?
I think that we need to teach the basics of school, basics of Indigenous history in elementary school, because kids learn and grow, and when they learn stuff, they apply it to their real life. And to be honest, many students in high school get the opportunity to choose something else rather than learning Indigenous history. And let's be honest, they would rather learn computer science. So I think that they need to teach the basics so that they can actually know what's going on around them, rather than not learning anything and being ignorant about the facts around them. And it's great that schools are trying to apply the history and teach students and be more inclusive. But I think they need to do it to actually teach the students rather than being quote unquote trendy and quirky, and to do them justice. Yeah, that's basically it.
Fatma?
I also just really quickly wanted to add on that not just talking about residential schools, but really shifting our focus to the Indigenous past to like for the students to gain a better understanding, because I don't really think that just learning about residential schools would affect them as much as really learning about the Indigenous people themselves.
And Minagi?
Yeah, I just have a really quick point just to end it off. Like, there's like a lot of volunteer sessions like about like Indigenous history and everything, but I don't think it's fair just to like people who want to learn more about it. They have to like resort to like going into like volunteer sessions and like stuff like that instead of actually just learning it in school from the curriculum. And I think there should be more like they should have more of a voice about like for Indigenous people, and like to just incorporate it into our history and from a younger age, so people know more about it.
Okay, I'm going to take the opportunity to sort of jump in here, because this is an issue that came up in the articles, is that if teachers weren't taught that content when they went to school, right, so they don't have those background resources to be able to actually teach that content, that your teachers now that include that content did that of their own, efforts, etc., to try and actually bring it in. And the next part is taking a look at making courses mandatory. And so I made up an excellent point, is are people taking history? And so the New Brunswick article also looks at, the mandatory aspect. So do you need to actually, take the courses? Do you need to take history in grade 11 and 12? And have a lot of people just stopped learning about history because, attitudes in and around about the subject of history? Are people taking it in 11 and 12 and learning more about their history? Because we've had 100 years of history plus, right, a number of issues to try and cover in this course. So what do you think about the, learning more history to sort of take off from this article? I just kind of want your thoughts on it. Nuggy?
Like by learning more history, do you mean like through like in the curriculum or?
Yeah, so having to take history in grade 11 or grade 12, because trying to be able to learn about all of the abuses in history and to cover the 100 years in history when some people haven't had a lot in elementary school is kind of a lot for grade 10. Like, there's a lot of content to be able to take a look at all of the abuses of all of the marginalized groups, as well as, to do Indigenous history thoroughly, plus to be able to cover, the wars that exist. Should students have to take more history in 11 and 12? Is that a possible solution? And then you can look at what other provinces are doing, because right now you only have to take this course. This is it. This is our last history discussion that you may ever have for the rest of your lives.
Yeah. My take on that is that I think in Gradle, like a lot of the, I think I need to think about this before I answer.
All right, next we have Fatma.
Well, I agree with the what you just said about it being too much to finish in grade 10 or 11. And so I think that if it's not a separate course where you just focus on residential schools, it should go all the way through. So for instance, in the article it said that Saskatchewan and Prince Edward Island learn about the history the earliest. So they both begin in kindergarten and go all the way up to grade 12, which I think evens it out really nicely because they can focus on residential schools while also focusing on the other events that were throughout history. So I just think that you kind of have two ways to go with this. If you're not just focusing on residential schools and if you don't have a compulsory course on it, it's better to just go from the beginning rather than just trying to squeeze it all in high school.
Guru, you're up next.
So, you said that we have 100 years of history, right? And squeezing it in just one grade and just one class is not possible at all. We got so many things out from what we we take out so many things just to make the course just one course. So I think it has to go through grade 11 and 12 because English and math has to go all the way through, right? And to be honest, they don't have as much. English and math don't have not a lot of context compared to history. And if those things can go for grade 11 until we're not history, is my question.
All right, Kira.
I think that history should be spread over multiple years in high school. Also because I just think that our curriculum is so diverse, with the fact that we cover essays and discussions and we read books together and we're exposed to multiple perspectives like Indigenous history, it not only builds on our historical thinking but also our critical thinking and it helps students engage with material, I would say more than math or English even. And I think that spreading out the curriculum would allow for more exposure to marginalized people, and it would allow teachers to be more flexible with how they want to include those marginalized people and not just shove them into a unit when they're not necessarily prioritized in that specific unit. And also regarding teachers not being educated about Indigenous history or whatever, I think it was Northwest Territories, who did the teachers training thing for a few days. And I also think that's incredibly important when there are specific courses that are focusing more on Indigenous history, especially like history in general. I think teachers should definitely be educated in what they're teaching because it would allow them to teach from an unbiased perspective and allow students to get the entire picture rather than just like a piece of what someone thinks.
Cici?
I do take a bit of a different stance from everyone else. I don't think that history should be mandatory for grade 11 and 12 because I feel like that's when students start to take like courses of their own interest because like in grade 9 and 10 you're filled with all of these mandatory courses, and grade 11 and 12 is when you can actually start taking like a lot of electives to suit your like your career path. And like I feel like if you force students to take history then they just won't really like enjoy it. They would rather be like doing something more related to their interests. I'm not saying that it's not important to learn about like minorities in history. I just feel like, and yes, you're right that you can't really squeeze it all into minorities. Maybe we should have more of the history curriculum spread out through the earlier grades. As we discussed before, it's like still I feel like it's more important to like have younger students learn about minority perspectives so that they don't get like preconceived notions. And I think like throughout grade 1 to 8 or like 1 to 10. You don't have to start learning in grade 1, of course, but you have all of these years to start learning about different perspectives in history, and like you can learn actually like a lot in this time. And instead of like forcing students to learn about this in a time where they could be pursuing their own interests, I feel like we should just learn about it when like they're just kind of covering like the basic concepts of everything. And just like again having them learn about this at a younger age could be also beneficial because they won't get any like they'll be more open-minded in the future, and they won't be like very stereotypical or have like wrongful views on the world.
Alexia, you're next.
Honestly, I agree with Cici. I feel like earlier I was thinking, yeah, history should definitely be mandatory on like our later years in high school. But now that I think about it, I feel like that's just a sign that the way that we've taught history is like in all of our courses, and no, not in all of our courses, but in all of our grades need to like change because so there's students who learned about Indigenous history really later on, and having to make up for it in grade 11 and 12 kind of feels like, I don't know how to explain it, but I just feel like, yeah, it could work, but I also feel like learning about it in younger grades would make up for that. I don't know how to explain it, but it's really interesting to hear everyone's thoughts. So,
Minagi?
Yeah, I agree with Cici and Alexia because I think in grade 11 and 12 it's mainly those years where you start to like students start to take courses that like that help them get into whatever career path they want to. And I mean, if someone is interested in taking history, then like I guess that's like the route that they want to, but not every student is going to do that. And I think in like incorporating bits and pieces of history throughout like the earlier grades, so like Indigenous history and like other parts of history like World War I and stuff like that, just talking about it throughout the younger grades could like help build a better foundation when you get into, let's say, grade 10 or even grade 9, and you can just like it'll be easier for the students to like understand everything in this course, and also you can go more in depth and talk about I guess more things in history in grade 10.
I think that like if not in grades like 11 and 12, at least kind of keep history mandatory in like grade 9 and 10, and like maybe grade 8, because there's probably a lot of information that teachers have to like cut out to make room for like the more, I guess, I don't want to say important, but like hard to explain because they probably have to cut out a lot of things because it's like they don't have enough time to like talk about everything. So like if they start it in like grade 8, and like they could give teachers more like time to give students information about everything instead of like select topics.
I wanted to kind of respond to what William said in the chat about like if students learn history from earlier grades, they'll kind of forget about some of the things as they get onto older grades. But I don't think that they necessarily need to remember every single little detail. Of course, they'll forget a lot of like the specifics of what happened, like dates and people and things like that. But I think the main ideas will still stick with them. Like if you learn about children being abused and killed, I don't think that's something you would forget just because you don't like actively learn about it. And it's just like it's still like we have all of this time throughout our like school career or whatever, and I think it's more important to just like make use of that and just teach something about like different perspectives in history before we get to where it's like a lot more important to like how choose courses that are more suited to our like desired career or whatever. So yeah, just wanted to add that.
Okay, I'm gonna kind of take a different approach. Just put here. Sorry, I am trying to be able to save things as we go, just to make sure that I don't lose any content. When we're taking a look at Indigenous history, one of the arguments is that it is the dark and deplorable part of Canada's history to be able to pull a quote from the New Brunswick article. And the question in and around teaching history in younger grades is the content, and if you're talking about Nazis and some of the horrific things that actually happened for children at such young ages. So let's take a look at the argument about teaching both sides of an issue. So we took a look at the FLQ crisis, and if you take a look at the FLQ crisis from the French that were being marginalized versus the more populous English for the rest of Canada, there are two completely different views in and around what happened to that particular event. Should we, right, as history teachers, always try to provide evidence from both sides of an issue and take no stance? And are there topics that are off limits to providing two perspectives? And that's the big sort of issue and argument. And, okay, this issue is bigger than just what this article says. So I want to give you the opportunity to be able to get and dive into that article a little bit more. So let's start with Cece.
Alright, so regarding the article about like providing information about the positive aspects of Nazi Germany, I don't really know how I feel about that, to be honest. While I do think it's important to like always provide both sides of the story so that you don't ever get like a biased view, like teaching the positive aspects of something like so horrific could be like really offensive to those who suffered through that, and it's just like I don't know if that's a good idea, but also I think that maybe we can like for the sake of like providing different perspectives, we can like cover a little bit about like some of the benefits, like maybe like the economic improvements of like Nazi Germany, but not focus too much on that, but like focus on like everything that happened as a result of it. And I think that is like teaching on two different perspectives is a good way to like teach basically everything in history, because again, it's you don't get like a very biased view. And for specifically like Nazi Germany, I feel like if you hear about like, oh, there were economic improvements versus like millions of people were killed, I feel like you'd be able to tell that it's not like a good thing at all. And people should be able to like kind of realize the difference between like a very minor benefit compared to a very like costly disadvantage or drawback. Not wrong word, but yeah, I guess it is important to teach both perspectives, but just like not focus on the benefits of that too much.
Kira?
I agree with what Cece said. I think that it's always important to teach both perspectives of something, but when it's as serious and as terrifying, for lack of better words, as the Holocaust or Nazi Germany, I think it's incredibly important to consider the people who were affected, and the fact, I think in the article it included that someone, like the president of the Jewish Foundation or something like that, said that he said that he thought it was offensive. And I think when someone who directly correlates with that event, you should respect their opinion and you should respect what they say and take that you should just, you know, take that at face value and say, okay, well, if that's offensive to you, then I'm not going to talk about it because it affected you and it affected the people that you care about. So that's most important. And in regards to like teaching Indigenous background in earlier grades for the glory bits, I think it's always important to teach about different cultures in earlier grades. So maybe instead of teaching about like lots of people were killed and all of these sort of things that can kind of scar young people, maybe teaching a little bit about Indigenous background, like what do Indigenous people hold at value and what's important to them and how were they maybe affected by the government in negative ways, instead of focusing on like X amount of people were killed and kind of, you know, teaching more saving glory bits for the later grades.
Guru?
So I completely agree with everyone else that both sides of an argument has to be talked about every time, but it's not always that case, right? For like Nazi, for example, there's too much bad to talk about the good. So it depends on the topic. So like if you can talk about both sides in an argument, please go ahead. Because if you don't, that person who you're talking to may take a biased stance toward the other side, which can really, really confuse them. So it kind of depends. It depends on what you're talking about. Like you can't talk about like both sides on the Nazi Germany side because there is no both sides very much. So it depends on what they're talking about.
Maggie?
Yeah, I completely agree with everyone before, and just to add on to Guru's, yeah, I think that it really does depend on what topic you're talking about. Like for example, the FLQ crisis, it was easy to talk about like both the good and like both perspectives, and like because it wasn't a Holocaust. And I think the like talking about like the Nazi regime and like the Holocaust in general, there really isn't much positive aspects to it. And in the article it says that Jane, like the director of policy, Jane Kersner Roberts, he said that the regime dragged the world into the largest global armed conflict in history, and in the end it destroyed its own country. So what positive attributes could we possibly find in that? And yeah, I agree. Like I don't think there's like certain topics that you can talk about like the good and the bad, but like there's just some topics that there is no positive attributes to it. So yeah. But I do agree that it's good to talk from an unbiased opinion and just talk about both sides. But there's a time and place for it.
Gavin?
I think one important thing to discuss when we're looking at, history is the positives of certain perspectives. But I mean, this is not one of them. I mean, I don't think there's a single person who's going to be happy seeing Nazi Germany being put in, a good kind of spotlight. And I mean, it upset a lot of people. It upset Jewish federations in Alberta. And it's a good thing that they removed it, but I think the most concerning thing in this entire story is the fact that there were revisions up until 2019 and that nobody noticed a real, difference or something. It's, disappointing, and I mean, if we're gonna look at, terrible parts of history, yes, it's good to try and find a good perspective, but I mean, if you're looking at Nazi Germany, I don't think there's any good perspective that came out of that.
Yeah, I also agree with everyone that's said that you totally should teach both sides of an argument or an event in order to truly teach students about that specific event and all the information that happened in the event. But some events like Nazi Germany and the Holocaust may be off limits because I think it's clearly a bad event in history, and teaching the positives of it may come off as offensive and people may get angry, and also the positives are probably very small compared to the bads or the not goods of Nazi Germany and Holocaust. So I think that for sure you should tell both sides of the event, but in some cases it's not good too.
I'd like to sort of jump in and play devil's advocate for a second, because we also have people with German heritage, right? So that may not have agreed with the Nazi Party, right? That by not talking about, and we've got Eurocentric, and so I also just want to be able to make that distinction as we start, because we still have like a lot of comments and a lot of people still to be able to contribute to this conversation. Michelle.
I agree with what everyone else said. Like, it's pretty biased to just look at one side of the story, and it's like looking at one part of the story and ignoring the rest. But it also depends on like the topic, because it may calling the Nazis good might offend many people.
Next, sorry. Batman?
Yeah, so I agree with everyone so far, and well, it could be good to talk about the different perspectives in history, just because we can improve our knowledge or like our insight on the topic, but it really depends on the event we talk about. So I don't really think it's necessary to talk about the positive and negative side of the event if it's not one that has both. But you can talk about like the social or economic perspective instead to still further our learning and not just limit our like understanding, but also still talk about it just to spread awareness.
Okay, and next on the list is Garv.
Like, I agree with what everyone else said with like, if you give like only one side, it's biased, but like for something like Nazi Germany, it's hard to find something positive, and like in like the article how it said something about a healthy economy. You can't like what a couple people said, you can't really compare helping the economy to like millions of lives lost, and like there's probably still families who are like who know people who lost their lives, and like who know like friends, or like who have like a brother or sister, or like a grandparent who lost their lives, and it's like hard. You can't really find anything positive about something that negative, and like that's like the one time where I agree with like there isn't anything positive to say.
Okay, Stavon, which I think you've posted already in the chat. Okay, and thank you for helping to make that distinction, of which I was trying to do, but you did a better job of that, right? And trying to decide, I guess, sort of moving into the next part, is what's off limits. And so recently in Ontario, the question in and around how we teach Israel and Palestine has become a big issue, right? And how that's presented in the classrooms and materials that are used and available is a question, right? Because history over time, and as people get more resources and things, end up actually changing. And I also want to throw out that new educational directives, there's been a number of laws passed in the United States that indicate you can or can't teach certain aspects of historical curriculum, and it has been adopted in a number of states, and also in places indicating about what you can and can't actually teach about the Nazis. So this sort of Canadian context is also part of a bigger context. So transitioning a little bit, but Alexia, I want to give you a chance to go ahead.
Hi. I just feel like there really is a time and a place depending on whatever the discussion is, and there isn't really any positive attributes to the Holocaust. And I feel like, and let me know if this is extreme, I feel like it also makes people, if they're being swayed to look at the positives of the Holocaust, I feel like it'll make people feel like it should have happened because, well, there was a good outcome of it, or that it happened for a reason. For example, like, I feel like, for example, connecting it to how when people say, you know, yeah, slavery was really bad, slavery happened, but you know, there was like some good things with like the Acosta. As a Black person, I feel really like slighted, and it just feels so insensitive to hear something like that. So to say that there was a good outcome to this genocide that happened is something that I don't think should be uttered. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like it should just, it doesn't need to be said in like a time like this when there's so many downsides to the Holocaust and what happened, you know?
Stavon? And Prina.
Okay, so I already said this, but I'm just going to repeat myself. I don't agree with the fact that there was a positive side to the Nazis. Honestly, I don't see what could be positive about genocide. It's also very disrespectful towards the people who suffered, and they would relive the moment if, say, their grandkids or maybe someone they know would come and tell them about why they've been killed, they could have been killed, and why it was quote unquote positive or great towards the economy. I understand by reading this article that they were trying to justify why they killed people, which is not true, because you can't justify taking someone's life to help the economy, and it's very disrespectful.
Okay, I just realized we're out of time, and so two things. One, as teachers, I in never way want to brainwash you about one side of the view or another side, and I hope that I have tried to balance all the history curriculum throughout the course. I've tried to include things all the way through, and then to be able to recap and highlight as well at the end of the course. And when it gets to people who may have, you know, highlighted positive aspects of some of the atrocious parts of our history, that they have been canceled, some people have been fired, and actually we're talking about that cancel culture in my grade 12 class, which is going to start soon. So I wanted to say thank you for all of your contributions. I've got the chat here that I am going to go through and then merge it with, of course, all of the times when you're talking verbally to try and put it in. And if you also have notes and things that you have created, or that you were writing it down individually rather than in the class discussion, if you could just pop that into the Dropbox for me, that would be great. And enjoy your weekend with absolutely nothing from history. Bye, everybody. Thank you for such a great conversation.
Well, good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing on this Friday morning? I'm going to put our song on in just 1 second, so hold on, let me do that. I'm okay. I had some really good presentations last period, so it made my Friday start a good Friday start, and we did this little question thing that people were sharing stuff at the end of the period, so I liked it. It was a nice class. Hi guys, hi Della. So hold on, let me put our song. I'm gonna do that right now for us.
Crying eyes, broken bells, begging calls, no one tells. Down we
Okay. Music was gonna get me copyrighted. I gotta save the stamina. room stats. That's crazy. Pretty sure I need 18 agility for Queen of Thieves. I need 18 agility. Fuck.
Work on any other final performance tasks that you might have. I hear there's a history one that you guys are working on, so you're welcome to work on that as long as you're doing some work. And then at the end of the period, if we have time, we're going to do just a little stress. I have a little stress bucket, question for you guys that I'm going to go over with you guys. Okay. So that being said, let's do attendance, and we'll see if I finish presentations quickly enough. Then I might show you this part of a documentary that I have for you. We'll see how much time we have. Now, I will be calling on some people to do their presentations. I can't remember who wants to do it in a breakout room or not. So when I just call your name, if you could just say breakout room or help room, miss, just so I know, okay? That being said, let's do our attendance question for today. So Jasmine, race car or helicopter? Awesome. Eric? Eric, are you there?
Oh, helicopter.
Awesome. Logan, thank you.
Race car.
Race car, me too. I think I'm an adrenaline junkie, so I'm into race cars. I do have a fear. I'm afraid of heights. So I don't think I'd do helicopter. I'd get on one, but I wouldn't really want to. Nicholas, how about you?
Helicopter.
Awesome, thank you. Rick, how about you?
The supercar, like the very, very expensive sport car.
Oh, a very expensive sport car. I like it, Rick. Good. Kaylee, how about you?
Race car.
Race car. Elliot, are you in class today? No? Brooklyn?
Race car.
Thank you. Perna?
I would love flying a helicopter.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Dana? Dana, are you there? Tala, is Dana not here today? Gonna move on then to Tala. Tala, are you there?
Here, she'll.
The Jagex prevents you from saying.
Yeah, she's here.
Oh, there you are. Okay. So Dana, I'm gonna go back to you, Dana. Helicopter or race car?
I'd rather be in a helicopter.
Awesome, thank you. And now back to you, Tala. What do you say? Race car or helicopter?
Race car.
Thank you. And Isan, how about you?
Race car.
Thank you. Drumi, how about you?
Definitely helicopter.
Thank you. Haley, how about you?
A race car.
Thank you. Hiba, how about you? Race car? Awesome. Garv, how about you?
Race car.
Awesome. Guru, how about you?
Helicopter.
Awesome. Minagi, how about you?
Race car, because I'm so afraid of flying.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Thanks, Minagi. And Jacob, how about you?
Race car.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So now, like I said, I will call you, and if you want to do your presentation in the help room, please, get your help room button ready, and you can come in. Guys, get your presentations ready, and let's begin. Who do I have for today? I have Rick. Rick, are you ready to do your presentation?
Yes.
You are? Awesome. So if you could... Yeah, if you could present your screen. Hold on, let me just shut my screen off. There we go. Oh, Jacob, you said, can you go first? Sorry. I didn't see that. Is it okay if you go after Rick? Yeah? Okay. So, how's it going, Rick? Awesome. I can see your screen, Rick. Great.
All Summer You Say by Ray Bradbury. Venus, the heaven's hot place. There is no sunny day. It just keeps raining, raining, and raining. It has been 7 years since the last sunny. Scientists said the sun will appear today, so the kids at school are very exciting. The last time they saw the sun was very young. They don't even remember. But one of the little girls named Meadows moved her from the earth. She had said and remembered the sun. The other child don't believe that. They don't like her. So they locked the maggots in the cabinet when teacher was go away. Then they said the sun as they wished. It was very beautiful, and they all enjoyed it very much. They have a lot of fun. When the rain comes, Winter said and remember the meadows. They're still locked in the cabinet by the and she is Mr. Sunny. It is a much story, a story about how maggots miss the sun and how children enjoyed it. Its text is very beautiful, and the character in it are very strong. I can't tell you specifically here, but I can definitely tell you that it's a good short story worth reading, and I will lucky enjoy to choose it. We can see that it is a short story about school bullying. This article doesn't mention school bullying now, nor does it write about meadows and bullying, but it uses those words to describe the activities and things that other children use. It seems that these children are very happy. In fact, there is a happy experience that reflects how critical maggots is in your life. This is very useful writing technique. Make readers can see one thing by describe another thing. This is one reason I recommend this article to learn in this class. There are many more learning points in this article that we can learn better. More importantly, the reason why I recommend it is because it is a good educational subject about
Saying that
school
it sent me
bullying.
an email?
What high school
It didn't?
students need to know about
So
the
like-
danger of school bullying. This is a very serious topic. It is a lot of
just like it.
irreparable mistake to our school life. No snowflake is in chance onto the avalanche. Nearly 246 million children and young people around the world experience school bullying every year. 32.5% of students experience school bullying. I'm shocked by this number. Many of my friends has had the same experience. They will get bullied, ostracized, and later be mentally illness. Often suddenly become sad and lonely. And my sister was in elementary school. A boy in class put a pencil into her eyes and almost went out. It took the whole afternoon off so socially to get us the danger. And in middle school in China, students in the class next door to me, because of the being bullied and some unhappy things, he finally committed suicide on his. Yeah, that sounds that's happening around me. So, since then, I have avoided school bullying. I hate that. In my point, it just seems like a motor. It's eating away that people who are dearest to me, even about my family. I hate to record this very angry and sad things, but these are things that bullying. The word does not stop the bullying. There are many more people who are being bullied with different injuries at the same time. In the end, school bullying is always a problem that cannot be underestimated. I think this article makes us aware of the danger of school bullying. So I hope everyone can read this article, and at the same time, I beg everyone to stop bullying and help those students in need to help. If you are being bullied, be sure to speak your teacher or your parents. So let's stop school bullying together. Yes. In the end of an, I have a little bit advice, so I take this opportunity to share some story from around of me. I think if we have some time or if we can, everyone can take this opportunity to share some example of bullying you saw or around of you. That's all.
All right, thank you, Rick. I really enjoyed the visuals in your presentation, and I really liked how you focused on that issue of bullying and how you included those personal experiences that you've encountered. And I'm sorry to hear about your friend, but your sister and how she was hurt. Like, that's just tragic. So thank you so much, Rick. Everybody give Rick a round of applause. Good job. All right, so now we are going to move on to Brooke. Brooke, are you able to present? Are you there, Brooke? Oh, you want to break? Okay, so is there anyone that's going to present in front of the class? Okay, so then Jasmine, are you going to present in a breakout room or in front of the class?
In the breakout room.
Okay, and I think everybody else wants to do in the breakout room. So Jasmine, I think Jacob wanted to go first. So how about we'll do Jacob, then Jasmine, then Brooke, then Assam, and then Prema, because I think all of you wanted to present in the breakout room, okay? So the rest of you can read quietly or work on any of your final performance tasks from other classes. If you don't have any final performance tasks, then you should be reading the book that you chose to read during class time. So you should be reading quietly while I'm in the breakout room listening to other people's presentations. So Jasmine, if you could come into the help room right now, and I am going to just put on our Starbucks mode for us. And Asan, you wanted to present in a breakout room as well, right? And Hiba? Yeah, okay. All right, I will call you guys out, so let me do that. So first person, I would like Jasmine, if you could come into the help room. And then let me put our Starbucks mode, okay? So the rest of us will be reading quietly and we'll be working on any other work that we need to work on in other classes, because I hear you guys have a final performance task in history, so you might want to utilize that time. And Jasmine, I'm just waiting for you in the help room. And then when I'm done with Jasmine, I will come out and I will get the rest of you, okay? All right. Okay, I'll see you shortly, everyone.
sent an email. Fuck, man, this is taking forever.
All right, Jacob, can you come to the help room, please?
Jesus, fuck. It took way too long. Holy shit. I'm not supposed to be down here. What am I doing here? I'm sure that those guys are aggressive. Bad dude, okay, I think the only thing that's really gonna fuck me over
Next, can I speak to Brooke, please?
Out of here.
Brooke, can you come into the help room?
See ya. See ya, Stinky. See you later, Stinky. Alright. Next week, Megan. I go do Romeo and Juliet. Was it for rock course? Agility, do I need? Dirty agility. No, thank you. Little language lines. I do this, then I do it from temper office. Breaking it in. It was a man. It was a man. Excuse me, what the actual fuck are you doing in my house? Look at him.
All right, I think I have Perna next. Perna, did you want to come into the help room? Awesome.
Who the fuck is the apothecary? Oh. I can't drink it? Oh, I can. Yes. Mate. Let's go! Shit! Hey there, buddy. picture? Dripped out at the my way. He actually slash bonus. Negative correction magic. You hate to see it.
All right, Asan, can I get you to come into the help room?
Yeah, we're kind of like fucking balling right now. Down here. Where the fuck do I start in? Catcher. I forgot to grab them from the bank. Anything for room mysteries? Requirements, requirements, requirements. None. Okay. Of course, that starts in numbers. Got the stolen mystery, the witch's potion. Am I actually getting flushed right now? Yeah, bro, you're bad. You're terrible. No way he chases me into the fucking thing. He's staring at me. How does he know? Does he know? what's up, bro?
Hiba, are you available to come to the help room? All right, I'll see you there.
Oh, you guys emulator of accuracy? I will take that. Thank you very much, kind sir. Yeah, it's awesome. I don't have a teleport to Lumbridge. Fuck. Oh, the next one is so easy. Might as well do it. It requires a lot of walking. I don't know. We got 12 today, so... look at all those classes. So just walk again. These have weight.
Hiba, are you there?
Maybe we flaunt the boots? Maybe we have to flaunt the boots.
Okay, everyone. Now, is there anybody else that needs to present or anyone I'm forgetting? If there is anyone else that needs to present or I have forgotten, please let me know now.
Where am I? I'm so lost. Hey, what's up, bro? Me?
All right, guys. So can I get your attention for a second? I am just going to show you this little video on your personal stress bucket. So hold on. Let me just share that with you guys. And so I'm just going to play this video and we're going to talk about, hold on a second. Why am I not presenting here? And we're going to talk about your stress bucket. And then I'm going to ask you guys, you know, what is your personal, like how full your personal stress bucket is, okay? So let me just do that for you right now.
Read an incredibly long email from your boss that you have to finish before the big meeting starts.
The idea of the stress bucket has been around in psychology for some time. Here is the story of the stress bucket. We're all born being a different sized bucket. The bucket is our capacity to cope with stressful life events. There's not much you can do about what sized bucket you are. We all live under leaky stress taps. The water that drips into the bucket represents our stressful life events. Many stressful life events are not within our control. All of our buckets have drain holes. This is good, as they release the stress we experience. If we have good strategies for releasing stress, our buckets won't overflow. But sometimes our coping strategies can't keep up with the stress we're living under. And sometimes we abandon our coping strategies when we need them the most, such as cancelling social events because we're feeling too busy and stressed at work. A full and overflowing bucket is where stress has reached unhelpful levels and mental health conditions may emerge. A bucket where the stress remains safely inside is one where stress is in check and is likely helping with productivity.
Okay, so guys, I'm gonna ask you each how full is your stress bucket? So I'd say my stress bucket is about 70% full. Because, I'm worried about, final performance tests, I'm, worried about exams, I have a lot of marking to do, so my stress level is kind of my stress bucket is filling up. So I'm just gonna ask each of you how full your stress bucket is. So Jasmine, how full is your stress bucket today? Not sure. Is it really full or close to empty?
Kind of full.
Kind of full? Okay. All right, thank you, Jasmine. How about Eric? Eric, how full is your stress bucket?
It's full.
It's full, yeah. Yeah, mine's getting full too. Logan, how full is your stress bucket?
Not much.
Not much. It's like almost empty. That's good. That's good. Nicholas, how full is your stress bucket?
40%.
40%? Okay, not bad. Thanks, Nicholas. Rick, how full is your stress bucket? Okay, I'm gonna move on to Kaylee. Kaylee, how full is your stress bucket?
Seems 0.
It's 0. Wonderful. That's good. Thanks, Kaylee. Brooklyn, how full is your stress bucket?
Like a solid 63%.
I like when I get a solid 63. I like it. Thanks, Brooklyn. Perna, I see you put 25% full. Okay, not bad. Dana, how about you? How full is your stress bucket? Dana, are you there? Okay, let's move on to Tala. Tala, how full is your stress bucket? Tala? No? Okay, let's move on to Isan. Isan, how full is your stress bucket? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was a little worried you might not be able to. Okay, then I'm going to move on to Drumi. Drumi, how full is your stress bucket?
I'd say mine's like pretty much empty.
Okay, that's wonderful. Isan, you said probably like 50%. Okay, not bad. What about Healy? How full is your stress bucket?
I think around 20%.
20%? Okay, not bad. What about Hiba? I think Hiba was having some technical issues, so I don't know if it was here. Yeah, Hiba, are you here? Maybe not. Garv, how about you? Say that again, I couldn't quite hear you. 100%, oh boy. That's a lot. Okay. Thank you for sharing that with us. Guru, how about you?
Super empty.
Super empty. That's awesome. Minaki, how about you?
It's like pretty up there. So
Pretty
like,
up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, almost full?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for sharing that with us. And Jacob, how about you? Are you there, Jacob? 50%. Okay, not bad. Hiba, I saw that you just came in. We're talking about stress buckets. How full is your stress bucket, Hiba? 50%. Okay, awesome. And again, like our stress buckets, they get full sometimes, they get emptied out sometimes. And then when they get really full, what we want to do is we want to think of some of the activities that we've been doing, you know, to kind of relieve that. Like maybe go on a virtual walk, maybe do, you know, a breathing exercise. Maybe watch I like to, you know what I like to do? I like to watch things that are funny, because sometimes they just, you know, kind of occupy my mind, and a good laugh really kind of helps for me. So, you know, we try to find strategies that kind of alleviate our stress and kind of help lower our stress buckets. All right. Now, there are some people that I still need to talk to. So, Garb, you needed to speak to me, correct? Okay, so do you want to come into the help room? The rest of you can continue working on what you're working on, or continue reading until the end of class. So, Garb, give me a second. I think I shut the help room, so I'm just going to open it up right now, and you can meet me there, okay? Hi, Tala. Can I speak to you? Tala, are you there? Okay, come on into the help room if you could, please. All right, guys, just a quick little announcement. Are there any last-minute presenters or any last-minute bump-up interviews today? Because remember, today's the last day for bump-up interviews. So are there any last-minute presenters or interviews? Just gonna go over that with you guys. No? Calling once, calling twice, calling 3 times, and we are done. So are there a couple things I wanted to show you, though, before you guys go. If you guys take a look at our Brightspace, just so you guys are aware, this is what I'll be doing, okay? So for our Brightspace, if you go to our Brightspace, and I'm going to show it to you right here. So if you go to our class calendar up here, and you click on that class calendar, I thought I heard somebody, but I didn't. So if you click on our class calendar, you will see this here. I have put the exams in there for you, so you guys know, okay? So here, if you scroll down, you will see, in case any of you are confused, you know, right here. So you will see period 1 exam is on Thursday, the 27th at 9:30. You only go to your period 1 class, okay? You don't go to any other classes that day. On Friday, you have your period 2 exam class, and you will go to that only on Friday and no other class, and that's at 9:30. And then the following week, you have your period 3 exam on the 31st and your period 4 exam on the 1st. So in case any of you guys get confused. Also, what I'm going to be doing as well is, like, you know here how I put our current week? So if you click on next Thursday, you're going to see go to your period 2 exam. So in case you get confused, you can always click on there to see where you need to go, okay? And then on Friday, you're going to see, oh, you know, period, sorry, I was going to say period 1 exam. On Friday, you're going to see, okay, today's our period 2 exam, guys, because we're period 2, okay? So in case you guys get confused, you can always check the days and click on it to see where you're supposed to be, okay? Are there any questions on exams? And also, I am going to give you your exam preparation on, oh, what does our exam look like, Dana? I think you might like it. So our exam is, I'm going to give you some questions on Monday that you guys are going to work on. I'll go over the exam, and then you guys have an interview. So you can sign up for an interview, and, well, you will sign up for an interview, and on your time slot, you guys, and I'll go over that in more detail. Like I said, you know, if you opt out of the exam, attendance is, you know, for the weeks where it is mandatory, right? So you will be submitting your work, like the written portion, into the Dropbox, but really the exam is just a verbal interview. So you can literally read out your response to me, right? I just want something written just in case I miss something. I can go back and look at it. Okay, so I think you'll enjoy this exam. It will be a little less stressful. But like I said, I'll go over that in more detail with you guys on Monday. Garv, do you have a question?
Wait, so is it you give us the question beforehand, we like do it, and then we tell you what we got, or is it live?
Yeah. No, I'm gonna give you the questions on Monday. And you guys will have the whole week to work on them.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully it will be less stressful for you guys. And again, the way we do exams is I'm gonna look at it. If you get, let's say you're at an 80%, and I'll look at it. If it's a level 4, I'm gonna mark it. And if it's higher than your mark, I'm gonna include it. If it's lower than your mark, it's not being included. So either way, it's not gonna hurt you. If I mark it and you're at a level 3, I'm not even gonna bother marking it because that level 3 is not gonna help you if you're at a level 4. So anything that won't help your mark will not be included. Only things that will help your mark will be included, okay? All right, so it's 11:24. Have a wonderful weekend. I will see you guys on Monday.
You dancing? Get out of here, my dude. Five pyramids. Come on. It can happen. Give me some pros, but a bed? Ass? Okay. Okay. And ass. Wow. I love tempura so much. Tempura skill count 14. Oh my dude? Is that a green fishing spot? I've actually been skiing.